I work in a cafe in downtown, quite a few homeless shelters in range, and a huge drug problem. One day, I'm working behind the bar, and this redhead kid, probably in his early 20s, sits down in our seating area and starts chanting under his breath. After a minute or two, he starts moving his hands around like he's casting a spell. He then gets up and starts yelling and disturbing everyone. I walk over to him and tell him he needs to leave for the day. He looks me straight in the eye and says, "This is all a giant game. I'll kill you with one finger." At this point, whatever. I get death threats a lot down here, no biggie. I shoo him on his way, and that's that. Fast forward to when we're closing up, around 9 p.m. I lock the doors and start heading to the parking garage my car is in. It's probably about 6 blocks away, no big deal. Winter up here is insanely dark, so it's already pretty creepy in downtown. About a block or two of walking, and I hear this hissing noise. I freak out because I can't see anyone around. I pick up the pace a bit, then I hear hurried footsteps in the snow behind me. I book it to the staircase for the garage because I wasn't going to wait for the elevator. I'm about a staircase up and I hear the door I just went through slam shut. I finally made it to my car and get in as fast as possible. I look around, and lo and behold, there's the redhead from earlier. Only this time, he's furious. He sees me in my car and books it full speed and starts hitting my windows, screaming that he's going to kill me. I door checked him and drove away. I called the cops the next morning and they found the guy. Apparently, he thinks he's in the Illuminati and completely corroborated my story to the police. A small jail time and one restraining order later, I haven't seen him again. I used to work at a pub that was 2 miles from my house. My shift ended at 11 one night. I stayed there for a couple of drinks, then started walking home. Now, this had been an exceptional night for me tip-wise, and I had close to $400 in cash on me at the time. Between the pub and my house was exactly one street light about a quarter mile from the pub. The rest of the walk was in complete darkness. This was a dark night too. It was close to the new moon and cloudy to boot, so it was almost pitch black. Now I live out in the boonies, so there isn't much light pollution to help out. Not long after I leave the pub, a car slowly drives by me. About a quarter mile down the road, the car slows to a stop and just sits there. I stop walking and watch the car. It sits for a few minutes, then slowly drives away. A couple of minutes later, the same car comes slowly driving back by me in the opposite lane. It gets by me, drives a bit down the road, and slows to a stop again. Then it does a U-turn and starts creeping back down the road towards me with the lights off. At this point, I'm terrified. I don't have a cell phone at the time. There's no one around to see what's going on, and the car is between me and the pub, so I can't go back to the safety there. My house is about 1.5 miles away, and there's no way I can quickly escape there. I quickly run off the road into the woods and duck down behind a bush. I watch for the car, but it's too dark to see it with the lights off and bushes and trees between me and the road. I sit there for about 10 minutes, but don't see or hear anything. I'm about to make my way back to the road when I hear car doors closing. Now I'm really panicking. It feels like my chest is about to explode. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing up, and I keep imagining someone sneaking up behind me. I stay hidden and hope to God whoever it is doesn't find me. I don't know how long I stayed there, but I eventually hear car doors again, then cars passing by. I give it a couple of minutes, then ease back to the road. When I see it's clear, I run back to the pub and let my boss know what happened. He said right then and there that I'm never to walk home at night again. Either him, his brother, or his mom will give me a lift home. I don't know what would have came of that evening, but thankfully it ended with me being able to tell this story safe and sound. As a bartender, I'm usually heading home around 2 to 4 a.m. On a slow Monday night, we were about to close the restaurant when a seemingly homeless woman walked into the bar. Working in a city, we're used to vagrants making their way into the bar, so kicking her out would be easy. My manager yelled at her, "Hey, sorry, we're closing up, we won't be able to serve you, you'll have to leave." She kept walking slowly and silently toward the bar, staring straight ahead with a blank face. As she walked closer, we realized she looked unusual for a homeless woman. Her skin was gray. I've never seen skin color like hers in my life. It wasn't dirty or old or tanned. It was a very light gray that was tight with almost no wrinkles. She also had a tattoo of 4 lines on her face. They all started at one point in the center of her chin and continued down her neck in a ray-like pattern. She also had no shoes on. Once she reached the bar, she went to pull out a chair when my manager yelled again, "Hey, we're closing up. Also, you can't be in here without shoes on. You need to leave now." She continued to sit down, then turned her head slowly to me. Locking eyes with me, she said, "I like you." At this point, my finger was on the bar panic button. Our bouncer finally made his way over and put his hand on her shoulder to ask her to leave. The minute he touched her, she broke out into this extremely loud, high-pitched, manic scream. It was like a scream out of a horror movie. What made it creepier, the whole time she was screaming, she was looking at me, dead in the eye, without blinking. She wasn't moving, so my bouncer went to forcibly remove her from the bar. I pushed the panic button and watched my bouncer pull away this woman as she was screaming uncontrollably, all while staring straight at me. The police came fairly quickly and took the woman away. To this day, that is still the creepiest night I have ever had to work. When I was in Afghanistan, we were in the mountains right on the Pakistani border. The first few months of the deployment were pretty hairy, but as soon as winter rolled around and the fighting season dried up, things got really quiet. Night shift went from, "When are we gonna get hit?" to "What kind of weird stuff am I gonna witness tonight?" I think it was February or so, and I was out on guard in the north-facing machine gun shack. We all had night vision devices, or nods, on, so when it was pitch black, we always wore them on night shifts. Well, I was looking out into the mountains when I see what looks like a guy come crawling out from behind a boulder up the hill about 100 meters. Being February, we hadn't gotten hit in almost a month because there was 2 feet of snow on the ground, and the temperature was hovering right around 0. So the Taliban chucked deuces back to Pakistan and left us alone for the cold months. Now, this dude was on all fours, like an animal, just sitting there, half behind a boulder, seemingly staring into my soul. So I pointed the machine gun at him and turned on the visible laser. I put the laser sight right on his nose, but didn't get a reaction. Nothing. The guy just stared at me. So at this point, I'm getting a little freaked out. I'd been blown up, shot at, almost RPG'd, and now some local is playing some really stupid games with us. I radioed into our TOC that there was an unarmed local staring at me on the north post, and I either wanted someone to clear me to wax him or come and look at what I was seeing. An E5 on the radio tells me he's sending a private out to babysit me. The private comes out, looks up at the hill, and promptly nopes the F out. He goes back to the TOC and tells the E5 that there really was a guy just staring at us out on the mountain. So the E5 comes up to the shack and I point this dude out. I kid you not, as soon as the E5 gets eyes on the local, the guy jumps up, hops up on the rock, and starts screaming like somebody just dipped him in boiling water. The East Guard Tower can now see the guy, and as soon as the crazy local started howling, East Shack loosed a 30-round burst of 7.62 out over his head. That shit is loud when it's dead quiet. The crazy guy jumps off the rock and runs down the hill screaming the whole way. Dead quiet the rest of the night, but the commander upped security to 50%, meaning half the dudes on our outposts had to pull security the rest of the night. The running joke for the rest of the winter was to be on the lookout for the mind-controlled experiment that the CIA lost track of. It totally freaked me out, but it is a good story though.